Hey, careerists, it's Kimberly Robb Baker at This Little Brand, and I'm taking a break from writing documents because the client whose documents I'm working on just emailed me and kind of said, hey, Kim, I just read this article that people who are 50 and older, or even sometimes in their 40s, could be discriminated against in the hiring process because of their age. And well, you see, I turn 50 next week. What should we do about this? So, to him and to anybody else here who is doing a job search in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, however old you are, I have a couple words of advice. So the first main idea I want to get across is just um, own your age. I mean, you don't have an obligation to tell people how old you are. If you are some like super fit ageless person or just an ageless person who's not super fit, you just don't want to share your age, you don't have to. And I'll talk at the end of this video about ways that you can obfuscate so that people cannot look at your documents and figure out how old you are right away. But I would say for the most part, even if you don't want to put your specific age out there, own the fact that you are um, a person who has leadership experience and that you are somebody who's seasoned. Things are shifting now. When I started my practice more than 13 years ago, I wrote several articles about age discrimination and how to avoid it. And those tactics still work. And like I said, I'll share those with you. But what I'm seeing more and more now is that this focus on diversity includes diversity of ages. And it happens in all environments where decades of experience are valued. So if you're in this sort of startup environment, especially like in venture capital environments where there's a lot of like usually some engineer or founder or something, it's like a young energy. When somebody comes in and they're putting money, a venture capitalist or any other investors putting money into the situation, they kind of like to know there's a grown-up around, so to speak. And that's not to say that young adults aren't grown-ups, but somebody with that kind of experience to bear who is going to be a great steward of all that energy and all that potential. So in a young environment, I think it's an advantage to really own the gravitas of your experience and your age. And obviously in an environment that's a big corporate or medium-sized company where, again, if they're leaning towards youth, this aspect of owning your experience coming in is adding a dynamic that they don't have, and see that as and speak to it and actively embrace it as an asset that you're bringing to the table. Things are just shifting now. If you look there, I just saw the other day, there's some Japanese grandpa and he lets his son dress him up and he's an Instagram fashion model star now. And like, so people are embracing age now. People are appreciating the fact that no matter how long you've been on the planet, and especially if you've been on the planet for a while, you are the one bringing new ideas and new energy to a situation, along with that experience that really sometimes you can only get good decision making. Um, or better decision making with having made bad decisions or having been mentored by great people in the past. You're now that mentor. You're now the person saying, hey, I have something to offer. I have steered this ship through these waters before, and this is what I've learned, and that's valued. Now, that being said, you have no obligation to tell people how old you are, and if you want to obfuscate it, you can both own the experience and also say, like, I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am. So first of all, you can take your experience back only a certain number of years to what's actually relevant for people to know. And I don't like to give a certain cutoff. Some people say 10, 15, 20 years. Um, Cut it off wherever you think, like, you know what, before that, from this point onward, really is what's most relevant. I am a career storyteller, so I'm into origin stories. I often think that early career has something of value to say about who you are, just in terms of like, who are your foundations? Just even thinking about superheroes and what their origin stories are. You don't need to belabor it. It can be a little note at the end of the resume, and I'll link in the comments to some examples of that. But you can use that early experience without any dates. You know, like this client who emailed me today has worked mostly in the U.S., but in one of his first jobs, he actually was a big deal internationally. He launched, or actually say, turned around the European division of the company that he was in. They were going to close it down, and he turned it around. He lived in 3 different countries in Europe, got that thing cooking. that needs to be on his resume. It's an international world, and we're not going to just cut him off 15 years ago and not show that he has that great global experience. Neither are we going to reveal his age. So we're going to put that in a note, and like I said, I'll link to examples of that. The second thing is you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to put graduation dates on your education. You can leave them off. I will warn you though, sometimes it's better to include them just because, and I would look at, say, if the last thing you're putting on your resume is going to be 2005 and you graduated in the 80s, yes, leave them off. If the last thing, just because of the story you want to tell or whatever, if the last date of work that you're putting on your resume is in the 90s and you graduated in 88, then you might consider just leaving the graduation date. Otherwise, they're going to say, wait, this goes back to 91, but they left the graduation dates off. Like, how very far long ago did they graduate? And they might end up making you older than you are. So that's one advantage of totally owning your age, is nobody can make you older. But do consider putting your graduation dates on if there's not a large gap in the work experience you want to show. If you have more questions, feel free to email me, kim@thislittle.brand.com, or just visit the website and search the blog. I have a lot of fun things up there. So that's it for today. If you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, just own it. Yeah, own it. It's an asset.